Ever wondered if your advertising dollar is really working for you? If your ad would have been here, you and more than 4 million people would be listening to it right now. Contact ads at xzoneradiotv.com.
All Hit Radio.
Welcome to the X Zone, a place where fact is fiction and fiction is reality. Now, here's your host, Rob McConnell.
Late night signals whisper through the sky, stories of the unknown drifting by, from shadows deep to stars above, the truth and mystery of what we dream of. From a humble start on AMR, a voice in the night reaching everywhere. St. Catherine's heard that distant tone. Rob McConnell's voice, the X Zone. Through the years, through the miles, through the questions and the trials. Now we're back on 12:20 a.m. Classic sound, it begins again. CFAJ, your hometown radio, where the truth and the strange still flow. From Ontario skies to the great unknown, with Rob McConnell on the X Zone. In 33 years, the journey is long. Rob kept the signal steady and strong. Through every guest, through every call, sharing the mysteries with us all. From haunted nights to cosmic light, he's chased the dark, he's chased the bright, and now the dial comes full around, back where the signal was first found. Every mile, every show, led him back to what we know. Now we're back on 12:20 a.m. Classic sound, it begins again. CFAJ, your hometown radio, where the truth and the strange still flow. From Ontario skies to the great unknown, with Rob McConnell on the X Zone. Across the dial through night's embrace, 1,000 stories time can't erase. From truth seekers to voices bold, every secret waiting to be told. From coast to coast the signal flies, connecting minds beneath the skies. And every night that mic turns on, Rob McConnell carries on. Turn the dial, hear the call, mysteries waiting for us all. From then to now, he's never gone, just riding the signal, carrying on. Yeah, we're back on 12:20 a.m., right where the story began. CFAJ, feel the tone, Rob McConnell's X Zone. From past to present, the legend's grown. 33 years and we're back home. So listen close, you're not alone, with Rob McConnell in the X Zone.
And welcome to the X Zone. I am Rob McConnell. We're coming to you from the broadcast center of CanCom Broadcasting right here in St. Catharines, Ontario, Canada, just up the street from Classic 1220 CFAJ AM, where we started the X Zone going back, 33 years ago. Actually, it's 36 years ago, but we came back to CFAJ 3 years ago, so that's where we get the 33 years. Back then it was 1220 CHSC, and that's where it all started. And here we are 33 years later, back home here in Niagara. Wow. Think of all those years and all those guests and all the great topics we've talked about over the years. And one of the favorite topics of mine is afterlife studies. And we're going to be talking to Dr. Craig Hogan this hour. He is an after studies expert. And we're going to be journeying into the unknown. And Dr. Hogan is president of the Afterlife Research and Education Institute. And for decades, he has been dedicated to working to explore what happens when we leave the physical body behind. His research bridges science, spirituality, and consciousness, uncovering compelling evidence that life continues beyond death. From communication across dimensions to the survival of consciousness itself, Dr. Hogan's insights challenge the limits of what we think we know about reality and offer comfort, hope, and profound understanding to those seeking to know what lies beyond the veil. Joining me now is somebody that I like to call a friend, Dr. Craig Hogan. And Craig, welcome back to the X Zone. Great having you with us again, my friend.
Rob, it's a delight to be with you. I love speaking to you, so anytime you want to have me on, I certainly would do it. And, you know, I used to live up there on the escarpment up there over top of Hamilton. Used to look across and I could see Toronto all the way across the bay and all that beautiful countryside up there. I loved it.
You were at McMaster for a number of years, weren't you?
Yep, was at McMaster for 2 years.
2 years. And
had just come up as a guest and was working with them in their instructional program at McMaster, and loved it there. Loved the everything about the country, and was sorry to leave. And after I had overstayed my visa and had to leave and come back to the States, but I enjoyed every minute of it there.
Well, you're always welcome back here, my friend. Always.
Thank you.
Craig, you've spent decades studying consciousness and survival beyond death. What's the most convincing evidence you've seen that consciousness continues after what we call life?
Yeah, we have so much evidence of it now. We have it in 15 different areas. So we have 15 areas of communication with people living there. And that's the primary way that we know that consciousness survives the death of the body. When the people come back from the life after this life and they communicate to us and they tell us things about life and about their life there. And now we have many hundreds of thousands of these communications from people in the afterlife. And they tell us about their watching us and they're involved in our lives. So there's one woman in particular who came through from the afterlife in the 1960s and she described what her husband was doing every day. And she would come through and explain, and she would tell him what he was going to, what he was eating, what he was doing with his evenings, and she would ask him to do things in the flat that they had lived in, and then she told him she liked it. So we know we have people coming back from the afterlife who are really anxious to tell us the truth, that now they've arrived and they're happy there and everything is well, and they want us to know that there's nothing to fear, that we continue to live on after the body dies. And so that's the most compelling evidence, those communications from people living there now.
Craig, when we talk about the afterlife, are we referring to a spiritual realm, a different dimension, or a continuation of energy and awareness?
Yeah, it is a continuation of energy and awareness in the sense that we continue as the people that we are. So our mental capabilities, everything about us, our psychological capabilities, our likes and dislikes and our favorite things and the things that we shunned and everything that like that goes with us. It's just as though we'd gotten on a plane in one country and we got off the plane on another country. We're the same person. That's what happens when we go into the life after this life. So it's a very easy transition. People make it and they say after they've made it that they just are amazed at how easy it was. They simply were here one minute and then they're there the next, and that's all there was to it. So that is the transition that is so easy that people are amazed when it happens, and they're delighted to see that they're alive and well and they're living in the next life.
How did your own beliefs about death and life beyond it change when your research deepened?
As I learned more and more about mental capabilities at first, I realized that I have mental capabilities. I can do remote viewing.
Hmm.
So I can sit in my office in Illinois and I can look at something on a table anywhere in the world, and I can do it mentally. And so that taught me that there's much more to life than just what we see around us, that there is another dimension to life that's just below the dimension that we live on here. And so as I learned more about my own capabilities and
Hmm.
about the fact that we are much more than the body, then it naturally evolved into the fact that that means that people live on after the body dies, that we're not limited to the body. We use the body. It's rather like an overcoat that we put on every day and when we go to work, and we take it off at night and hang it up. So what happens is that we use the body when we're here, we leave the
Hmm.
body when we are ready to leave it, and we continue our lives. And so as I learned more about my own capabilities, then I learned that people are living in the life after this life and are communicating. They're anxious to communicate with us. So the more I got into that, the more I had various people come to me, and they seem to just come out of the woodwork. I had mediums coming to me, and I had people who were experts in this field coming to me, and they were all telling me the same thing, that we continue to live after the body dies, and the death of the body is nothing to be feared, and our loved ones are still with us. They communicate with us. All we have to do is learn how to communicate back to them.
You know, my wife, who's a nurse, and we've talked about this before, calls the body a meat suit.
That's it.
You know,
Yeah,
and
that's what it
basically,
is.
yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
right.
I've got about a minute before I have to go to a break.
Hmm.
When we come back, like you have all this evidence, and having guests like you on the show, we've been able to open up the horizon to listeners and viewers around the world. And the stories that you tell and the proof that you talk about, it opens up doors, Craig. And I just can't thank you and Roberta Grimes and everyone else at seekreality.com for the great work you're doing.
Yeah, thank you. It is a mission, and it is a mission that we love. We're dedicating our lives to it. Because if people realized the fact that
Hmm.
we continue to live after the body dies, then they wouldn't have to worry so much about what happens during this lifetime. And they can get along with other people, whatever those grudges are, whatever those animosities they
Yeah.
have among people. They're just temporary, they're meaningless, and we're going to leave them all behind, and we're going to embrace each other in the next life. And we can look forward to it and live that life now. We can live knowing that we will continue to live after the body dies, and we are brothers and sisters, closer than brothers and sisters, and that we are one with each other. And so, when knowing that, then we can change our lives, and eventually humanity will change.
Exonation, Dr. Craig Hogan is my special guest. He is an afterlife studies expert. And if you'd like to find out more about Dr. Hogan and the great work he does, visit seekreality.com. This is the X Zone. I am Rob McConnell, coming to you on the CanCom Broadcast Network from our studios in St. Catharines, Ontario, Canada, and being streamed around the world by our good friends at Classic 1220 CFAJ AM right here in St. Catharines, as they stream us at classic1220.ca.
Through the years, through the miles, through the questions and the trials. Now we're back on 12:20 a.m. Classic sound, it begins again. CFAJ. From Buffalo streets to the New York lights, a mind on fire burning so bright. He walked with legends hand in hand. Michael Jackson, John Mellencamp, Billy Joel sang, Prince played his part. ZZ Top rock straight from the heart. Through every note, through every tune, the world was changed by Howard Bloom. Howard, the man who invented the 6 days. Your voice echoes on through the decades of
Exonation, our guest this hour is Dr. Craig Hogan. He is an afterlife studies expert. And for more information about the good doctor, visit seekreality.com. These are trying times, Craig, as everyone well knows. There seems to be something negative going on at any time, any day, anywhere. The people on the other side, are they able to go forward in time and backward in time?
Yes.
Can
So
they?
what they tell us,
Yeah, I was just wondering if they could help us out in these very trying times.
yeah, and they would if they could, and they do what they can from their side, but they can't interfere with our lives because we have to live our lives and learn the lessons that we're going to be learning, and eventually then we will go on and we'll look back on our lives here, but everything that we do here we have to do ourselves, so they can't really interfere. But what they tell us is that they know everything that's going on this earth plane, and they are often saying to us, we just wish that you could get along. We wish that you could change humanity, and we watch you from afar, and we're very disconcerted about the fact that humanity is having such difficulties. But there's nothing they can do. They can't interfere. It has to play out on its own. And so they give us advice and they try to help us along with what we're doing. They inspire people. They inspire people, like Mahatma Gandhi and the great thinkers, the great peacemakers of the universe. And so they inspire them to do what they're doing, but they can't interfere. They can't make them, and they can't make us change our minds. So we have to grow into it. And so that's what they try to do from the other side as much as they can.
You know, many skeptics argue that afterlife experiences are just simply brain chemistry or oxygen deprivation. How do you respond to that, Craig?
Yeah, we have such wonderful communications from people living in the life after this life. That woman who looks in on her husband, and then she goes into the medium, and she describes to her husband what he was doing the evening before or the week before. And these kinds of people, when they come in and they communicate what's going on in people's lives on Earth, we realize that they are with us. They
Yeah.
are around us. They can come into our lives, and if there's a party going on, if there's something that's happening with the family, then they are there in the midst of what's going on. They're just unseen. But the people who are on the other side of life are intimately involved in what we're doing. They want to help. That's part of their mission because they're still growing. They're becoming more loving and compassionate by doing what they can to help us grow from the state of mind that we're in. But as you say, the world today is in a place of upheaval. It's a time when we're seeing the birth pangs of something greater, which is going to be coming. And they're telling us that it's going to be coming in the next few hundred years, in the next couple of hundred years, and that we're going to see a change in humanity. And when there's a change in humanity, then we will live together in love, peace, and joy. And that's their goal in helping us. But they can only do that by inspiring each of us as individuals to do things that will be of benefit to humankind. And as that accumulates, as various people are doing things to make a difference, eventually it will make a difference for humankind. And that's what their mission is.
Let me ask you a very simple question, Craig.
Mm-hmm.
What is the meaning of life then?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the purpose of life is to learn lessons,
Right.
grow in love and compassion, and have fun.
Fun.
So, yeah, we're here to have fun. We should be having fun. We shouldn't be so worried about everything that's going on. We shouldn't be so burdened by the world's issues. If we could relax into just enjoying the lives that we have, we would find that we don't have to be so concerned. We don't have to be burdened and worried all the time about what's going on. We do that to ourselves. So, in other words, worry is not inborn. Worry is something that we are doing to ourselves because we're taking things too seriously, is what it amounts to. That we are going to be living these lives and we can live in love, peace, and joy with each other. All we have to do is make it happen right now for each of us as individuals, within our families, within our communities, within our nations. And then once we do that as individuals with our units, then all of humankind will change. But we have to start it individually, and we can enjoy life without having the worries. And that's what we are meant to be doing. And that's what we should be doing. And they are on the other side, are helping us along the way. They're continually in contact with us.
The last time I tried to explain that to my bank manager, he just kind of laughed
Yeah,
and showed me the door. But anyway, I'm sure he just didn't understand what I was getting at.
yeah.
Craig, the people that we have in our lives today, when we cross over to the other side, do we continue a life or an existence with them?
Yes, it's much like we had gotten on a plane and we've gone off to another country and we have gotten a little house there and we have our family that's going to be coming over on the plane and we're going to meet them at the gate when they come on to us and so then we're going to live our lives in that new country and we bring everything with us there. We bring all our memories, all our likes, all our dislikes, the hobbies that we enjoyed. This great scientists are still doing scientists. The great composers are still composing music. And so they continue their lives in the life after this life. And what they tell us is that that life is very much like the earth life. In other words, when they awaken there, they're amazed that they're even in another place, that they've gone on to the next life because it just looks so much like the earth life. But what happens is that when we go on to that life, then we can carry on with all the things that we were doing. Now, as far as who we live with, we will choose who we live with. So we can live if somebody was married and had three wives, and this person can decide to live with all of them, or two of them, or one of them, or none of them, and everybody has to live with that. So there might be some people who are
Yeah.
disappointed because someone doesn't want to live with them. So the choices we make are in the life after this life are exactly the same as the choices we make in this life. So we can expect that we'll be able to live with our family. We'll spend millennia there with our family afterwards. And we can choose to live with certain people, not choose to live with others. If somebody was abusive on this side of life, then the person doesn't have to see them. They won't even come into their eyesight. And that's a law of nature. It's simply that if somebody does not want to see somebody there, then they won't see them. Eventually, after decades or hundreds of years, they might reconcile with them, but they're not forced to do that. It's entirely up to us. It is free will.
In the next life, Craig,
Hmm.
do we live longer? Do we exist for a longer period of time before once again we go into what's after the next life?
Yeah, it's the death of the body is a unique phenomenon for the Earth plane.
Hmm.
So we on Earth then experience the death of the body. And the reason for the death of the body is so that our minds, who we really are, that's all that we really are, can go on to the next level, to the next world, which is called by some Summerland. So we have the death of the body, but we never ever again have the death of the body. So what we do is when we go on to the next life in Summerland, then we continue to mature. So we become more loving and more compassionate. We become more understanding of other people. And if we're enjoying our lives there, we're just having fun doing the things we're doing there. So we will continue to grow in love and compassion. And eventually, then we will even shed the body. That there's no need to have a body. We don't feel like we need to have a body. And we can go on and we then are more like orbs of light at the higher levels. People describe 7 levels, but that's just arbitrary. But we are on only the third level when we go into the next life. We're on the first level now. The second level is called the lower realms. That's where people who are abusive and people who don't treat others well, that's where they live temporarily so that they can mature out of that and then go into the third level, which is Summerland. But then there's the fourth level, the fifth level, the sixth level, until eventually we don't have to worry about having bodies or having material
Gotcha.
things at all. But we don't even understand that. We can't even envision that right now. So right now we're just enjoying where we are and we're enjoying our bodies and we're going to keep these bodies when we go on to the next life. Except when we go into the next life, then we will have bodies in our 20s or 30s, whatever is our prime of life. Children then who pass into the next life, then grow up into their 20s and 30s. But then everybody is at that level, and then they enjoy life with all the things that you would do in your 20s and 30s when you get into the next life.
What about children who are stillborn or never
Mm-hmm.
make it to the time when they're supposed to be born?
Mm-hmm.
What happens to them?
Yeah, if a child was loved by the mother,
Mm-hmm.
then that child is born in the next life.
Oh,
And they then are born in the next life and they grow up there. So we have examples of people who have gone into the next life and they've had reunions with children they didn't even know that they had because they'd forgotten about that miscarriage that they had. We have one of a woman, this woman who came through in a Leslie Flint seance. Leslie Flint was a direct voice medium, and people from the afterlife would come into the room and they would speak. And so now we have the recordings of these people speaking. And so in one of these incidents, a woman had a reunion with her two children, Peter and Sybil. And Peter and Sybil just came up to her and they hugged her and because they loved her and she just said, "Who are you? You know, I don't know who." And they said, "Well, we were your children, Peter and Sybil, and we had passed away.
wow.
We didn't go into our childhoods and grow up on the earth plane. We grew up in the afterlife. We grew up in Summerland." And so then they were then in their teens or 20s at that time. But the children then are if they are loved by the parent, then they will then be born in the next life. They'll grow up there and there'll be this wonderful reunion later on. We have many stories of these reunions.
Let's talk about some stories when we come back from this break. Exonation are a fascinating topic, just mind-boggling, and it opens up the possibilities to a life and existence that we have never really thought about. Life after death. Or is it life continuation after the time that this meat suit ceases to exist? We'll be back on the other side of this break with Dr. Craig Hogan. And if you'd like to find out more about Craig and the great work that he does, along with our good friend Roberta Grimes, visit seekreality.com. I'm Rob McConnell. This is the X-Zone on the CanCom Broadcast Network. And we're being streamed around the world by our good friends at your hometown radio, Classic 1220 CFAJ AM, right here in St. Catharines, Ontario. And you can listen to us, classic1220.ca.
25 years and I still see the spark of greatness, the somewhere out there, a light's gone dim. A chair sits empty, the world feels thin. A mother's voice that should be near is now just silence filled with fear. The days grow longer, the nights grow cold. Questions unanswered, prayers unfold. A family waits through endless pain, hoping to hold her once again. If you know something, if you see the truth, you can be the reason she comes home soon. Do the right thing, pick up the phone. No one deserves to be alone. $1 million won't replace the love that lives in Nancy's place. Her family's breaking every day, still believing, still they pray. You hold the key, don't look away. Do the right thing today.
Welcome back, everyone. And yes, we're still trying to put some end to the Nancy Grace situation. Savannah, her brother and sister, have been without their mom for, I don't know how long it's been now, but where they were once featured in the news cycle goes, and of course in the media, if it doesn't bleed, it doesn't lead, and the news media has gone to other stories that they follow on a daily basis, but I still have a candle in my window for Nancy Guthrie and her family. She deserves to be found. Her family deserves closure. So if anyone listening to this broadcast, no matter where you are, Canada, the United States, I mean wherever, and if you have any information or you think you might have any information pertaining to the disappearance of Savannah's mom, Nancy Guthrie, do the right thing. Pick up the phone and call either the FBI or your local law enforcement agency. Tell them what you think. Tell them what you saw. Tell them the information that you think might be part of the puzzle of bringing Nancy home. We're all part of a solution, X-Zone Nation. We don't want to be part of the problem. So once again, if you have any information pertaining to the disappearance of Nancy Guthrie, please do the right thing. Pick up the phone and call your local law enforcement agency or the FBI. Dr. Craig C. Hogan is our guest, seekreality.com. And Craig, we were just going to start talking about some examples of the messages that have been brought to this side from the other side. And before we went on the air, you were saying that even there's been some alien communication?
Yes, there's been quite a bit of it, actually. And we have heard from a direct voice medium, which means that he is getting voices from the other side. And he had two people come through, and both of them said that we would have contact. This was in the 60s when the recordings were made.
Right.
That we would have contact within the next few decades, and that they would be coming. And these are people from the other side who are saying this. But we've had more direct contact. We have had a circle here. A circle means that we have people sit around a table, and we sing songs, and we wait for the people in life after this life from the afterlife to come through and speak within the circle. And we had a very successful circle. And within that circle, then we had visitors. We had people come through who were Arcturians. And we had 3 Arcturians come through. And they said that they are part of a group of people there were 58 different nations that were part of this, and they're actually other planets, part of this group. And they said that they are working with humankind, and they're attempting to help us to get over the great difficulties that we have. And they're very instrumental in doing that. And they indicated that we would have more direct contact in the future. The future is now. This was happening in the early part of this millennium. And so now we are expecting that it should happen any time. So we believe that the sightings of the craft, the UAPs,
right,
is the sign that these are happening, and that we are expecting they will make contact. So they're telling us from the other side that they intend to make contact, and so that should be coming imminently. And so we're just waiting for that to happen now.
Craig, so let me understand this. Excuse me. The people on the other side cannot directly help us. And yet the people from somewhere out there, the Arcturians, can.
Yes.
Okay.
So
help me understand this.
Sure. So it's rather like we are Americans and Canadians, or we're Europeans, or we're Chinese. So we have different countries, but we are all one humanity.
Right.
And the same is true of all of these beings, like the Arcturians, and we've had Palladians who came through in our circle, and they're all one, if you can imagine it, one consequential being. And that being then is what the universal intelligence is. That is the ground of all being. And so we are all part of that. So we as individuals who are different countries on Earth,
Right.
and they then as different people from other planets, from other spheres, and from other dimensions, we are all still one in our universal intelligence. So they're advancing and they're growing in their love and compassion, and they then are intent upon helping us in the same way that we might have people on Earth,
Right.
and we encounter people who are primitive,
Hmm.
and they're warring and they're tribal, and we want to bring them up to be loving and compassionate with each other. And so we help them to understand that they can be loving and compassionate. They don't have to have war with each other. They don't have to kill each other. And so we're intent on doing that. And so then these people from the other spheres who have come in to speak with us have the same feeling about us. They want to help us to advance. So we're sure that the UAPs, the phenomena that we've had, are friendly. And they understand us. They are spiritual. I mean, in the same sense that they are part of our universal intelligence, and that their intention is going to be to help us to advance. Now, that there are still others who are out there, other spheres or other beings who are not. They are more malevolent,
Hmm.
and they are intent upon thwarting this effort by those who would like to help us, the Palladians, the Arcturians. And so then these others
Hmm.
then are going against us, and we've
Right.
actually had interference in our circle when they've come in and tried to interfere. But we've had the Arcturians come in and cast them out. But we know that there are beings that are intent upon helping us. There are beings who are intent upon impeding us. And so all of this is happening in the background. All of this is happening in other dimensions. And we just don't realize it. We're rather babes in the woods, about understanding everything that's going on in the unseen world that's all around us.
So it seems just like it's the age-old battle of good versus evil.
Yeah, that's what it amounts to.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
Now,
so then,
now, when you're sitting in this circle, how many people sit in this circle?
we had 7 people,
Hmm.
and then it varied. Sometimes it was 5, sometimes it was 7. But we had a wonderful circle, and we would sit around a table, and we would sing songs, and we would raise our vibration. In other words, we'd raise our energy while we were in the circle.
What kind of
And
songs?
what's that?
What kind of songs?
Oh, pop songs.
Oh,
We
really?
used to sing. Oh, yeah. We would sing all of the wonderful popular music, whatever that
Oh
was
my gosh!
during the time, and we would just sing and have fun, and as we did that, what we were doing was we were raising our
Right.
vibration. In other words, we're raising who we are
Hmm.
in our intelligence, in our well-being, in the emotional people that we are. So we're raising our vibration, and as we raise our vibration, then they can come down from
Hmm.
their vibration and they
Right.
can communicate with us. And they use that energy that we develop in the circle,
Hmm.
and they use the energy to make things happen in the room. So we had the table that we would sit at would bounce around,
Really, just
and
bounce.
it would move around the
Huh.
room. Yeah. And this is very common in these circles. They're called physical mediumship circles, and in the physical mediumship circles, and there are some wonderful circles still on around. Ours is no longer right now is not no
Hmm.
longer being doing things, but there are many of these circles around, and the people from the other side will come into the circle and they will use the energy that we develop because we're so loving and so compassionate with each other, and we're having such fun and we're raising our vibration, and they use that energy, that wonderful loving positive energy, to make things happen in the room and to communicate clearly. They can come in and they can, for the some of the mediums, then they would make ectoplasmic voice boxes and they would speak in the room, and they would speak to the people in the room. So there are wonderful things that are going on, but their intention is to help us to become more loving, more compassionate, and to grow as a humanity, grow as a species, and they can help us to do that. We have to do it on our own,
Hmm.
but they can help us.
Where is Summerland, and where did the name Summerland come from?
It came from a group of people called the Theosophists, And the Theosophists then they had people communicating from the other side and describing this place that they called Summerland. The Theosophists called Summerland. And Summerland, then we have roadmaps to it. I mean, we know what Summerland is like. We know what life is like there. And they came through and they communicated from the life after this life about what their lives are like in Summerland. And that was it's wonderful. We know what we can look forward to in the life after this life. And so then they were intent upon helping us. And the reason they were intent upon helping us is because they don't want us to fear the death of the body. There's no reason to fear. This body's just it's an overcoat. You know, we're gonna walk in and we're gonna hang it in the hallway and leave it behind us and not worry about it and go in and have a wonderful reunion with our loved ones.
So it's basically the butterfly leaving the cocoon.
Yeah, that's what it is. So in other words, the death of the caterpillar is the life of the butterfly. So
all right, Craig, I hate to cut you off, my friend, but I do have to take my final break, so please stand by. Exonation, Dr. Craig Hogan is our special guest. Visit his website, seekreality.com. I'll be back on the other side of this break as we wrap up this hour here in the X Zone with yours truly, Rob McConnell, from our broadcast center and studios in St. Catharines, Ontario, Canada, on the CanCom Broadcast Network, and our good friends at Classic 1220 CFAJ AM. Not only do they broadcast our show, but they also stream it for us. Stream it around the world at classic1220.ca.
Family waits through endless pain, hoping to hold her once again. If you lost something. Where the mist rolls in from the river's bend, and the willow weeps for the long dead man. Cannon smoke and musket cries still echo under haunted skies. In the shadows by Queenston's hill, you can hear the marchers still. Drums of doom and bayonets gleam, awakening soldiers from their dream. They rise from the ground when the moon turns pale, whispering names on a cold night's gale. Through the streets of Niagara on the lake they ride, ghostly eyes burning from the other side. Hear their boots on the cobblestone floor, the dead of 1812.
Welcome back, everyone. Dr. Craig Hogan is my special guest this hour. His website is seekreality.com. I'm sorry I had to cut you off before we went to our break, Craig, so please continue.
Well, I think we were talking about the Arcturians and the Palladians.
Yes, we were, yeah.
And what they tell us is that they will be making contact and they will be helping us, but that we needed to be ready for it. So that's part of the reason that they're doing it in steps now. So they are intentionally allowing us to see their crafts so that we get used to this idea. And because of the fact that, you know, that they came early on, you know, all the way back into the 40s, and that was suppressed by the government. The sightings were suppressed, and the reason was because they were afraid that people would panic and so forth. And so what they're doing now is they're gradually allowing us to become used to having them in our skies, and then eventually they will make the contact. But they're very careful not to do anything that would change our civilization. It's like the prime directive,
Yeah.
you know, Star Trek
Yep.
prime directive. You do not change the races or the species that you come into contact with, and that is rather like what they're feeling like. They are obviously very advanced, and they can interfere. And so they are afraid of doing that. And so that is the reason that they're doing it gradually. So they're making contact gradually. But we know that they are friendly, that they are concerned about humanity. They are, for instance, they're turning off the nuclear buttons so that the missiles can't launch, and so we know that they have done that, and that has amazed the people who are in charge of the missiles. But they have come down and they have turned them off to just show that they could do it, to make sure that they could do it, so that they could save humanity from itself. But hopefully they won't have to do that, and that we will straighten ourselves out, and they then are going to make contact. So that will be in our future.
Not to get too political, when we have President Trump, who said last week that if Iran did not do what he wanted, that he would annihilate the entire population of 90 million people. Whether this was a bluff or not, I don't know. It worries me to a great extent that this man has the ability to push the button, but I do thank God there's certain checks and balances in place. The people like the Arturians and those on the other side, when they see what is happening here in Iran, in Lebanon, in Israel, in the Middle East in general, how do they see us getting out of this mess that we're in to a point where we'll be able to basically iron everything out and live in peace and harmony?
Yeah, and it's not just them, it's the people living in the life after this life. It's our loved ones who are on the other side, and they're watching us, and they're seeing what's happening, and they're dismayed by it. They're dismayed by the fact that there's so much conflict in the world right now, and they're very vocal about it. But it also is these other races, these other peoples who are coming in, and they are doing what they can to help us. They are concerned about us, and they are not, it's apparent, not going to allow us to annihilate ourselves. And I think that they then are going to take whatever control they need to. They have the ability to do it. They've already demonstrated that. They can come in and they can shut off all of the nuclear warheads in a location.
Yeah.
And they are going to come in and do that. They would step in if necessary.
And of course, that was confirmed by Captain Robert Salas, who was a commander or one of the key personnel at Malmstrom Air Force Base, where there was a field of nuclear missiles that basically went dead.
Yeah, went dead. And we understand that the same things happened to the Russians.
Yeah.
They've had the same phenomena. And their reason for doing that is just to make sure that they could do it, but I think also to let us know that they can do that. And for us who realize that they're here and that they are helpful and that they are concerned about us,
Craig,
it is comforting.
Where does religion fit into the entire picture of the afterlife?
Religion is entirely man-made, and we can say that what religion does is to give humankind, a voice for their innermost understanding of our relationship to each other and to our universal intelligence, the ground of all being. And so it comes out in that way, but it's rather like it's little spurts that are coming out of a flat in a tire. And the little spurts are coming out, and they're just barely trickling, and they're not fully what our universal intelligence intends for us, but they're various people's understanding of what we're being taught and what our inclination is or where we're going to be going. And so then we're seeing the signs of it in each one of the religions. That's why religions are so different, but each one of them, we say, has some positive characteristics. And the reason for that is because it's these little leaks that are coming out. So, but what we need to do now is we need to go directly to the source. In other words, we need to go to our universal intelligence, and we need to use that guidance that we receive. And we can get that from the people who are living in the life after this life. They have a perspective on it. So they're coming in and they're taking what would amount to the best of all of the religions, because it's coming from our universal intelligence, and they are giving that to us. They're saying, here it is. Live together in love, peace, and joy. All you have to do is do that. And in fact, that's what Jesus said. I mean, he said the
Yeah.
same thing. He said there are only two great commandments: you love each other and love God. And the whole church has grown up out of that and become monstrous as a result. But it's only those two commandments. And so what he was saying was the same thing that they are saying on the other side. Just love each other, be concerned about each other, help each other. And then if you do that, then everything else will take care of itself.
After all the years you've been doing research and working with mediums, doing the circles, and having the opportunity of speaking to people who have also shared experiences with the other side, what is the biggest misconception that people have about the afterlife?
I think it's the notion of hell. The biggest misconception is the idea that there is going to be some sort of a divine retribution for whatever we have done on earth. And it's absolutely fiction. There's nothing to it. It grew up in the first century CE in the early church. It was borrowed from Zoroastrianism, just as the devil was. And then it grew up in the early church. And what the early writers who were not Christians said was that the idea of hell was something that the Christians had invented to keep their parishioners in line. And that pretty well is what it says.
Control.
That is what, that's the control. It's to control people. But there is no such place as hell. We don't see it in the earliest gospel, Mark. We don't see it in the Acts of the Apostles. We don't see it in Paul's epistles. Nothing in the early writings of the Christian church says that there was such a place as hell. So I think that the idea of hell is the greatest misconception. That's something which must be eradicated. In one Pew survey, 69% of Americans still believe that there is such a place as hell. But they don't believe that they're going there. Nobody believes that they're going there or their relatives are going there. They only believe that it's going to be Adolf Hitler and Idi Amin and Joseph Stalin and those the bad people of history, but they still cling to that idea that there is such a place as hell. There is no hell.
My father taught me when I was a young lad that hell is here on earth. Finally, Craig, when your time comes to cross over, what do you personally expect to find waiting for you on the other side?
Oh, my mother and my father and all of the people that I love, every pet that I've ever had is going to be right there. They're going to be there to greet me. And it's going to be a wonderful reunion. And I'm just really looking forward to it. And I'm also going to meet all of the ancestors. They're going to be coming up. And, people that I learn about in Ancestry.com, they're going to be there too. So. And then I'm going to be able to go to meet with people I would like to meet with. I'd like to meet with somebody like Martin Luther or another great luminary of the past. And so then those are the things that I really look forward to in the next life.
My producer Craig was telling me that there was a TV series called Summerland, and Ted Danson starred in it.
Oh, don't know about that.
Yeah,
but,
I'll get you the information. He thought you might be interested in it.
Yeah.
So, Craig, I've got about a minute and a half. What are you going to be doing in the near future when it comes to afterlife studies?
Yeah, what we're trying to do is we're trying to get the word out now. So we've got the information. We know what the life and the afterlife is like. We've got roadmaps of the next life. And we know that everyone is going to be living after they leave the body behind. So there's no question about that. But what we need to do now is to help people understand that. That humankind now is struggling with the misconceptions and the ignorance and the fact that they're fearful of the end of this life and that they're not going to live on. And so what I'm most concerned about and what I believe is my mission now is to help humankind, help people to understand the fact that they don't need to worry, that their loved ones are going to be there. There's no loss when somebody goes on to the next life. They're there waiting for us. And I want people to understand that and to realize that and then to look forward to their own transition when they're going to go into the next life. And everybody they love, every pet they ever loved, they're all going to be there waiting for them.
Dr. Craig Hogan, thank you ever so much for joining us tonight. Craig, nothing but the very best to you. And as always, my friend, I look forward to the next time you join us here in the X Zone.
Thank you, Rob. I as well.
Exonation, our guest this hour has been Dr. Craig Hogan. We've been discussing the afterlife. Now, if you have a question that you would like me to forward on to Dr. Hogan, send it to me at xzone@xzoneradiotv.com. And for more information about afterlife research and afterlife studies and the great work that Dr. Hogan and Roberta Grimes do, visit www.seekreality.com. I'll be back on the other side of this break as we continue from our broadcast center and studios right here in St. Catharines, Ontario, Canada, on the CanCon Broadcast Network and on Classic 1220 CFAJ AM, streaming us at classic.ca.
And hear the marchers still, drums of doom and bayonets gleam, awakening souls.